Hi there, my sweet little magnolias. How are y'all doing? Welcome back to our teaching on the 12 gates of healing. This is a 12-step spiritual guide to overcoming past trauma. You can get this book on Amazon. It's workbook size 8.5 by 11, and it's about $14.88. You can also get it on Kindle for less than $10. And I'm working on a hardcover edition, adding a journal and workbook in the back, and that will be available in the next week. I know I said that last week, but things got kind of crazy around here. Anyway, we are on gate 4 now in our lessons. Oh, yeah. If you cannot afford to buy any of this material, either the paperback or the Kindle, and follow along with us, then send me an email. My email address is right here with your name and your address, and I will send you a free copy of the paperback edition of this healing journey. I don't want your lack of funds to be a barrier to your healing. So just send me the email. I will get that book in the mail to you ASAP. All right? Also, if you have any questions, concerns, need some clarity, email me and I'll answer you as quickly as possible. Okay? Okay, now we are at gate 4 and we're going to get into the first key. Now, this gate is called the examination gate, and we're going to examine your trauma a little closer. And we're going to, first key, assess your spiritual, mental, and emotional self. And I know that sounds like a big bite, but we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down. This gate is where we begin looking at ourselves under a microscope. In order to heal, we must know exactly what needs to be healed. We need to define it. We need to put our understanding on it. If you're sick in your physical body, you go to a doctor to find out what's wrong. They take blood tests, they give you an examination, take your vital signs. Sometimes you get an MRI, or more testing is required to determine what you are suffering from. And it's a very normal thing that most people have done many times throughout their lives. When they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me, it took years for me to get a diagnosis. So when I finally got the diagnosis, there was so much relief. I wasn't happy that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, but I was happy to have an answer. It's the same spiritually. With spiritual, mental, and emotional health, we still have to get an examination. We still need to know what is causing the symptoms, because addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the symptom that there is a problem. Toxic behaviors, not the problem. It's a symptom that there is an underlying problem. Okay? So, an examination is required, but spiritual exams are very, very different. In order to find the root cause of your emotional, mental, or spiritual sickness, you have to dig really deep, which is very similar to what I went through trying to diagnose what was wrong with me. But in the emotional, mental field, it's not a conventional test. You don't draw blood to find out what's upsetting you. It's spiritual tools and practices. It might make you a little uncomfortable to go through this process, but even in the physical realm, getting a medical diagnosis from a medical doctor, there's a lot of discomfort. They gave me a test that I call the medieval torture test, where they strapped me into a chair and poked me with needles and shocked me. It's called a nerve conduction study, but it was very uncomfortable. Same thing with emotional, spiritual, mental examinations. It can get a little uncomfortable. If you aren't a spiritual person, this might feel a little weird to you. If you're not familiar with spiritual practices, it might be a little uncomfortable or confusing at first. If you've tried meditation or any of these other spiritual practices in the past and it hasn't worked for you, you might be getting a little discouraged. And if you've suffered spiritual abuse within a religious organization, any religion, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That can happen in any organization. This type of activity might trigger you. So understand that this is for your good. You are in control. You are in charge. Nobody else is forcing you to do these things. This is your choice. Okay, so keep that in mind. And, you know, I had a lot of these thoughts when I started down this journey because I had suffered spiritual abuse and even sexual abuse and physical abuse within a Christian setting. Yeah. Mental abuse, emotional abuse, all within the setting of the cult of Christianity. So I grew up in the church, but many of my abusers were leaders in that church. And the person that I told what was going on didn't believe me and called my chief abuser, which was my adoptive father, and told him what I had said. And boy, did I have hell to pay when we got home. So I had a lot of trust issues around the spiritual side of things. I had also been ostracized by my church when my ex-husband was caught having an affair with another church member. They didn't ostracize him because he really wasn't a leader in the church, but I was. I led the women's ministry, Bible study. I was on the worship team. I did women's seminars when the pastor was out of town. I taught his Wednesday night class. I was very involved, but they removed me from all of my ministerial positions because my husband had an affair. And they said my spiritual house wasn't in order. If I sound like I'm a little pissed off still about that, I am. I haven't completely healed around that. I'm glad and grateful that it happened and showed me the truth about the cult I was in. But I think what gets under my skin still to this day is how Christianity and a lot of other organized religions treat women. That's what gets under my skin. It's not about me personally and what happened to me. It's about what happens to most women in these organizations. So anyway, I'm going off on a rabbit trail. But because of that, I was very reluctant to get into anything spiritual again. But once I held my nose and jumped in, I was fine. I was able to swim around and learn and enjoy. So anyway, now we're going to get into our first exercise, which is discovery. I recommend you take notes so that when you go through this on your own, you will have some more clarification, more direction. So if you don't have a notebook or a pen to take notes, pause the video and go grab that, and we'll get into the lesson. Okay, are y'all ready? What we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to attempt to discover. You've already discovered a lot, okay? But we're going to attempt to really hone in on the roots of the issues that you deal with. Why you do the things you do, why you say, why you react, why you do this or that to cope with your trauma from your past, why you make the choices you make. And meditation is one of the best ways to do it. And you may have to go through this exercise many, many times before you feel like you've made a connection and you can hear what you need to work on. Because the universe has the drone's eye view. They can see the whole picture while we only have just a very small window of understanding. So that's why this piece is so important to your healing journey. So, like always, get a notebook, journal, get a pen. I like to always have a box of tissues close by, and find a quiet space where you're not going to be disturbed. And this one is especially important because you're going to try to connect with your spirit team. So you don't want a bunch of distractions around you, okay? And this is going to take some time, because if you're going to do this the right way, then you need that time. So don't think you're going to be accomplishing this in 5 or 10 minutes, okay? So if you don't have the time to do it, then wait until you do. You don't want to do this half-assed. You want to heal all the way, then you need to give your all to these exercises, and especially this one. You know, like I said yesterday, we're building a foundation. We are building a foundation for your healing, to build your new life on. So, this is important, okay? All right. Now you're going to connect with your spirit team and ground yourself. Remember, there is an index at the back of the book to help you with that. But this exercise is all about connecting with your spirit team and grounding yourself and hearing. So then you're going to take 3 or more deep cleansing breaths, at least 3, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And this helps calm you and quiet any anxiety, any tension. That's why sometimes it may take 10 or 20 breaths to get you to a place where you feel that calm. And I like to put on some good meditative music when I'm doing this. YouTube is a great place to find that. Just scroll through, just type in meditative music in the search bar and scroll through until you find something that resonates with you, and put it on very softly. You don't want it blasting your eardrums out. And then close your eyes and focus on your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. They don't have to be deep breaths. They can just be regular. And make that be your focus. If thoughts come through, like, did I start the dishwasher? Did I change out the laundry? Did I remember to call so-and-so? Did I send that email? Just let them float through your mind and go on by. You don't have to grab a hold of them and think about it. And if you do, then let it go. Once you realize you're hanging on to it and thinking, did I not? Let it go. Just acknowledge it. Because if you don't acknowledge it, it's going to keep and let it go. But if the thought is something significant, like, you know, what your mother did to you or said to you is pretty shitty. When she said this, it's pretty shitty. That's what you write down. That's what you write in your little journal notebook. And then go back to the meditating, the breathing, focused on that breathing. And then you get another thought. You know, when Mrs. Thompson said, blah, 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 that really hurt your feelings. And it's going to start like that with the smaller things. At least it did for me. It may start with the big things for you. I don't know. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But any thought that is attached to things that happen to you that were uncomfortable or unkind or hurt you in any way, shape, or form. That's what you want to write down. Because remember, we're building that foundation. So we need to get the land cleared and prepared for that foundation. You know, where I live is the Texas Hill Country. And if I wanted to build a house, I would have to hire someone to prepare the land because there is so much rock and so many prickly, stickly things that the land would have to be prepped properly, and then they would have to build the foundation. So right now you're prepping the land and you're building the foundation. And so any of those thoughts that come in are thoughts that you need to write down so that you can properly pull them up if you need to. You know, it's like if you're building a house and there's a tree in the way of where you're building it. Of course, my thought would be just don't build it there, move it, and go around the tree. But because I love trees, I don't want to cut any trees down. But anyway, I digress. And if there's a root, a stump, right there where you're going to put the foundation, you've got to remove that because one day, if you don't, one day, maybe 50 years down the road, that may start growing again, and that will crack your foundation and it will ruin your home. So this is the same thing in the spiritual realm. We've got to dig up all the stuff that may ruin our foundation. You're going to continue this process for a while. Several minutes is what I put in the book, but it may be a while, maybe more than several. And when you feel calm and at peace, then you're going to ask the universe to show you what you need to work on healing first. You know, it's like when you make a to-do list of things you have to do during the day, you need to prioritize it. The things that are the most pressing need to go at the top of the list, and the things not so pressing need to go at the bottom. So this is that part of this exercise, is saying, okay, you've shown me a lot of things. Is there anything in particular that I need to work on first? And then listen for the answer. If you hear something, it's a thought or even what you might call your inner voice, your subconscious, you need to write that down because that's your spirit team talking to you. That's the universe talking to you. A lot of people say, do you talk to yourself? Do you answer yourself? Oh, then you're crazy. No, that is your dialogue with the universe. That's what that is. And you're going to go back to meditating after you write things down and keep asking the universe to show you things and keep writing down what you feel or hear. And then once you feel the urge to stop, like I've gotten enough for today, then stop. Clear your space. Palo Santo, incense, sage, selenite wand, just clear that energy because it's going to be a lot of chaotic and sometimes painful energy. You don't want to carry that back with you to the next place, either sleep or interacting with other humans. And then you're finished with this exercise for now. But like I said, you may have to go back to it many times until you get the land completely cleared and ready to lay the foundation. So be prepared for that, okay? It's hard, but it's worth it. You know, when I first did this exercise, they first showed me little things. I think like one of the first things they showed me was when that boy told me in high school that I was too fat to date, but not too fat to fuck. Stuff like that. The gym teacher in elementary school bullying me. The kid on the next street over bullying me. You know, those types of things. Those were the first things they showed me. And then they started showing me some of the harder things. the sexual abuse and trafficking that my father perpetrated against me, the ways in which my mother had abandoned me and treated me like I was the other woman in her marriage, the ways that my brother bullied me. And it was hard. It was really difficult for me. And the more I looked, the more I asked to be shown, the harder it got. And it's kind of like taking medicine that you don't want to take, but you know you need it. You know you need the medicine to get better. I remember that scene in Harry Potter where they're in the cave and they're trying to get one of the Horcruxes, and Dumbledore tells Harry, no matter what I say, make me drink this water. Make me drink it, no matter what I say, no matter how I beg. And that's what this is like. No matter how much your self wants to stop, you need to drink the water and keep going, because what's inside needs to be let out, needs to be healed, so that you can go on and lead the life you were destined to lead. So I know the pain of this exercise. I understand it completely. I walked this path. I'm not suggesting that you do anything that I haven't already done. And I can tell you from my experience that the pain that I went through, the agony sometimes, the tears that I shed, it was all worth it to get to where I am today. I am so happy today. And I still have more healing to do. And so I will still need to take more medicine when the time is right, when the universe compels me to do it, when they say, okay, Lainey, it's time we look at this now. And all we're doing right now with my journey is fine-tuning. But if you're just beginning this journey and all there is static coming through, you need help tuning, and the universe will give you that help. And this exercise is how you do it. You can do this, my sweet little magnolias. I believe in you, and I know that you can. And you can get to the other side, and you can be happy, and you can be filled with peace. I promise. Stick to it. Take your medicine. Drink the water. Yeah, break the Horcrux. It's necessary in order to heal and to lay the foundation for a happy, peaceful, joyful, successful life. All right, that is the end of this exercise, the end of this lesson. Next lesson will be on the second key in gate 4, which is the examination gate. And the second key is time to walk away from your addiction. So that's going to be a big one. Make sure you fully completed the first exercise, the examination, figuring it out, before you go on to this second exercise. Yeah. It'll be much easier if you've identified the things that need the work and prioritize the list. Yeah. I know you can do this, my sweet little magnolias. I have faith and belief that the universe will carry you through. Love y'all. See you next time.